Hello everyone, Antonio back from DronePros.com, and today we have another video on a KISS product. It is not a KISS flight controller video this time. It is the highly anticipated and pretty much everybody's raving about the KISS 24 amp Racing Edition ESCs. There's been quite a bit of hype on these ESCs. A lot of improvements have been made, on the based on the previous generation of KISS electronic speed controls, and these things just have some great features. They have adaptive timing. It's a really nice feature. You don't have to worry about the timing. The one shot, it does I believe one shot 42. I may be wrong on that. It's either 40 or 30 one shot, so it's a very, very, very fast communicating ESC. It can get information fast to the motor and relay that back to the flight controller, and what that ends up giving you is a lot more stable and smooth flight. I have already wired, pretty much just put one of them here in the X-Hover Element 5-inch I have today. That is what I have been flying. This is pretty much my go-to setup if you want to check them out. We will have them on the new website. You can also go look at them at xhover.com. But yeah guys, so we got it here mounted on the Element 5-inch. I did put one on there. You may notice I did install it with clear heat shrink. I don't know, I just wanted to change it up a little bit. Let me put my hand there so I can focus it, or attempt to focus it. But it's having a hard time. Oh, there it is, just because of glare. You can see I put clear heat shrink. I don't know. I'm a big fan of German engineering stuff, and the Germans always seem to do everything right. They're very good at what they do. So I said, hey, what the hell? Let's just put clear heat shrink and show these ESCs off. Next time a guy at the field comes over and says, oh, what ESCs are you running? They'll be able to see there, and they're the beautiful KISS ESCs. But just for a size comparison, I'm going to get one of the ESCs I did remove from there. I am running on the 3, obviously I'm not going to fly it like this, but I've only done a change on one. The other ESCs are the X-Hover 25 amp racing ESCs. They've been absolutely great. I haven't had any issues with them. I just really wanted to try out these KISS ESCs. Now, just for a size comparison, I'm going to hold, this is the X-Hover 25 amp ESC here. A really nice thing about these ESCs are they do have BECs in there. I never did run the BEC. I just use the signal wire, because both flight controllers I had, the Rev 6 and this flight controller, use high voltage, so you can run straight power from the distro board right up to the flight controller. But I'm going to put the KISS ESC just to the right of this so you can get a size comparison of it. I'd say it's pretty much the same length that way. I'd say maybe half a millimeter longer, but it is just a bit wider as well. Not a big deal. I'm sure it'll fit on any racing frame out there, whether you go with like a QAV or alien frame. There's tons of frames out there. I'm pretty sure you're not going to run into any issues. It went onto this arm without any problem. It could actually still have been a little bit wider, and you wouldn't have had any issues. But I am going to be giving you guys a quick walkthrough on the tabs on this flight controller. What I'm going to do right now, let me quickly get a flathead screwdriver so I can kind of point out the tabs for you. Right, so I have here my flathead screwdriver. So your motor tabs are obviously solder on here. Those, you obviously got to solder them correctly. You got to make sure your motor is spinning the right direction. Obviously, if it's not spinning the right direction, you reverse any of the 2 wires, and that'll get you spinning the right direction. On the other side here, you're going to see this tab. There's 2 tabs on either end of the ESC. The one that has a really long tab that kind of narrows down to skinnier one, that's going to be your positive. It's also shown there with the plus right above there, and the one on the other end is going to be your negative. Now let me orient this so it's a little bit easier to see. On the bottom here, there's 3 more tabs. There's 1, 2, 3. The one over here on the left is your ground. The next one, typically this would be your power, but on this ESC it is a telemetry, and I'll explain that a little bit later. and all the way to the right is a PWM. So that's the one that you would also, if you are using the KISS flight controller, that would go in the PWM input. If you're using, let's say, a NAS 32, that would hook up to the signal wire of the NAS 32, whether it's a Rev 5 or Rev 6. So once again, it's ground, telemetry, and PWM. Now, the way the telemetry works, this ESC actually shoots telemetry back to the flight controller, which will then send it to your receiver, which will then be received on your Taranis radio if you are using Taranis. I'm not sure what other manufactured radios it works out there, but I know for a fact it does work with Taranis. So that's a nice feature to have. If you aren't using, now that telemetry will only work on the KISS flight controller. You can't do it, at least that I'm aware, you can't do it on a NAS, you can't do it on a CC3D. So you don't have to worry about that middle pin. It's not a current. It's not throwing any positive power out. So it's not going to power up anything. It's just throwing out telemetry. Also on flightareno.net, they got a full diagram of this whole ESC, making it really easy to understand, and it's actually very simple. I'm going to turn it the other side just so you can get an idea. A really nice thing I liked are the size of the MOFSETs on this thing. They're actually really big, and I start to get an idea of why and how it's able to process so much information just so accurately. I'm sure the big MOFSETs have a lot to do with that. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it here on the tabs. For today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to briefly wire this up. So, if you are switching this, if you want to convert one of your current racers into KISS ESCs, it'll be very easy. Now, if you guys are out there that are watching this video and you don't have a KISS flight controller, don't worry, you can still run the KISS ESCs. You're still going to get a lot of great features out of it. But if you really want to optimize the full potential of these ESCs, you kind of want to get the KISS flight controller, because they just talk so seamlessly with each other. It's just absolutely great. You can run the one-shot 42, which is absolutely fast. It's blazing fast. Now, a lot of the things I've seen with racers evolving as far as the ESC software side is, the whole dampened light. Now, I don't know for you guys out there how much of you guys actually pay attention to what the dampened light really does to your motor. It actually makes it run really rough. It's very abrupt on it. It's just very hard on it, and especially from you guys coming from RC planes or helicopters, we're so used to, in that industry, the ESCs being so smooth, and really working so seamless with the motor. When you get into these racers, the ESCs, especially the BL Heli stuff, the dampened light, it's very aggressive on the motors. It's not the smoothest, but it gets the job done, and it actually does it very well. And it's kind of something we got used to. I accepted it. I was like, it is what it is. That's what it's going to be. But after running these KISS ESCs on one of it's pretty much the same exact setup. All I changed was the ESC on the same exact motor. I was just blown away. The thing was just so smooth. I can really see where the active timing comes into play. It's self-adjusting. It does it all on its own. I can really see a lot of just smoothness in the operation of the motor, which I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit once I get to it. But yeah, guys, so I've already wired one of them up here. I am going to show you how I wire up one of the other ones, and then I'll just kind of end the video there. I don't think you guys need to see me repeating the same step 4 times. In this case, it'd be 3 since I already did one. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to quickly set up the motor 3 here. And for you guys out there that are saying, wait, that's not motor 3, that's motor run. On a KISS flight controller, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's why I mentioned motor 3. But yeah, I'm going to hook up motor 3, get everything set up here, and I want to show you guys just really how smooth this motor and ESC operate just so seamlessly. So I have a Servo Tester here hooked up. I'm obviously running a battery with it because these ESCs are opto ESCs, so there's no power coming out of it. I also took out the red wire of it. The only reason is because this Servo Tester outputs positive there, And this wire here, at least the red, it's hooked up to that, let me show you here. It's hooked up to that telemetry port. Let the camera focus. It's hooked up to the telemetry port right here. So I didn't want anything crazy going on with the ESC, so what I did is just disconnect it just to be safe. You know, it may hurt it, it may not hurt it, it may not matter, but just to be safe, it's not going to hurt it if I remove it. So I just removed that. But yeah, so I got it hooked up here to a battery here. It's obviously hardwired, so you know it's not wired to the distro board, and that's just to show you guys here just how precise and how quiet this motor operates. So what I'm gonna do right now is just give it some throttle here with the servo tester, and you're gonna see and hear for yourself really how quiet and how seamlessly it operates this 2204 X hover motor. So here we go. So right now I'm at the lowest speed, guys, and I know for a fact any BL heli running, whether the newest software, the 14.1, it will not turn at such a low speed and be just so smooth. I know that for a fact. It's just not going to happen. You can spend all day, you know, messing with it if you want. It is just not going to do that. You can see here with the KISS ESC, it's able to just, you know, be so slow, and I'm gonna quiet down here for a little bit so you can hear it's really not making any sound. I mean, I can feel nothing on this arm. It's just very, very quiet. Another thing with the BL Heli ESCs, they're very noisy. And what I mean by noisy, I don't mean sound itself, I mean electronically noisy. I can see it always on the GUI. They're just very, very noisy setups. This thing is just wow. I'm gonna speed it up just a little bit more. Just listen to that, guys. It's just operating so smooth. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm already blown away, and I still haven't even gotten this thing off the ground. So yeah, guys, let me disconnect that, and then I'm gonna show you guys the process of installing an ESC on one of the other motors here. All right, so I am gonna now be replacing I'm gonna be replacing ESC4. So the first thing I'm gonna do is loosen this up, or at least the prop nut to get the prop off. I'm sure there's going to be a few guys out there wondering what these props are. You guys are probably saying, wow, are those really wood props? Yep, they are wood props. They're 5x5s. I'm going to be doing a little bit of testing this week on them. If you guys want to see a video on them, want to see me review them, I'd be more than happy to. Just leave it down in the comment box below if you guys would like to see these wooden props reviewed and seen my thoughts on it. But on my current setup here, obviously this is going to vary from setup to setup. I have the ESCs shrink wrapped onto the arm. So in my case, I'm going to have to cut the shrink wrap, which is I'm going to get a really sharp X-Acto knife and just kind of cut along here. Be very careful, guys. Anytime you have an X-Acto knife, those things can be very, very dangerous and very sharp. So I easily removed here the shrink wrap. Get that out of the way. Get that in the trash can. The next thing I am going to do is I'm going to remove the screws on the motor. Once I remove the screws, I'm going to unsolder the ESC from both the PDB board as well as the flight controller, and when I'm done doing that, I'll come back to you guys. So we got 4 screws removed on the motors. They're all here on the side. They're kind of out of frame, but trust me, I got them all off. Oh shoot! Make sure you don't lose anything. You know, put everything nice and neat away, so later you're not looking for stuff and you're not short any screws or hardware. So I got the 2204 X hover motors here removed. I got everything unsoldered from the flight control as well as from the distribution board. So from this point, I'm going to use a little flathead below the double-sided tape to kind of help it so I don't damage the ESC. That you can kind of pull off like that. So as you can see there, now we have the motor and ESC removed. I'm then gonna, in my case, remove the double-sided tape that I use here. Get that out of the way, give it a little clean up there so it doesn't look too bad. And the next step I'm going to do, I'm gonna, let me get it focused, I'm gonna unsolder the motor from the ESCs. One thing to know, guys, for you guys that don't do this, you probably won't understand what I'm saying. For you guys that do this, you're gonna understand exactly what I'm saying. But I'm gonna try to explain it the best I can. So if you are running X-Hover motors with X-Hover ESCs, after so many builds I've done, I know for a fact that if you solder all the wires in line, the motor is going to spin counterclockwise. And what I mean by in line, you can see here how they're coming out. You know, that one's going all the way to the left, the middle one to the middle, and this one to the right. If I solder this motor and the motor across in line, I know that this motor is going to spin counterclockwise, like so. Let me get it in focus. But yeah, I know this is going to spin counterclockwise. If I reverse two of these, so make it not be in line, I know for a fact the motors are going to spin clockwise. So if I do them in line, they're going to spin counterclockwise, like so. If I do them reverse, they're going to spin clockwise. Now, with soldering up the KISS ESCs, I noticed I have to reverse all that. So for this motor, if I soldered it in line, it would spin clockwise. So what I'm going to do to make sure it spins counterclockwise, since it's going to be motor 4, I'm going to just reverse 2 of the wires so it doesn't spin in line. I may have lost a few of you guys there, and I'm sorry for it. For you guys that do this technique, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, because it makes, especially if you're sticking to one unit and you're sticking to one set of components, as far as, like in my case, X-Hover setup all the time. Anytime I have a motor replacement or ESC replacement, it's very, very simple for me to remember. It's either in line or not in line. And like I said, I'm very sorry if I did lose a few of you guys. So off camera, what I'm gonna do really quickly is unsolder the motor from the ESC. Excuse the focusing, it's just, I need to remove everything from the background like that, block it all off so it can focus. But yeah, I'm just going to unsolder this motor from this ESC, and then I'm going to get the KISS ESC ready, and I'm going to show you guys when we're at that step. If you guys have watched any of my soldering videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of pre-tinning everything. If you haven't, I highly suggest you watch those. But yeah, guys, I've pre-tinned the motor wire side. You can see there, they're all pre-tinned using the same techniques that I describe in those videos. I pre-tinned the ground, I pre-tinned the positive, as well as the ground here, the telemetry, and the PWM. So now it is ready to accept the motor. So I'm going to solder the motor up here really quickly, and then showing you how that looks when I'm all done. So here is a motor and KISS ESC fully wired up. As mentioned earlier, where I may have lost some of you guys, you can see here where I reversed the wiring, whereas before with the X-Hover ESC, it was actually straight and in line. Now I also went ahead and hooked up the power wires. This is just 18 gauge wire that I have laying around, so I hooked that up, obviously the positive to the positive end and the negative to the negative. If you mess up on this, guys, you are guaranteed to fry these ESCs. They don't have a voltage protection as far as polarity is concerned. So yeah, be very sure you do this right. Double, triple, quadruple check, because this is one thing that if done wrong, you are going to mess them up immediately. And as some of you guys are aware, these ESCs are very, very hard to find. So I also went and hooked up the servo, I guess a servo lead to it. Typically when I have ESCs, I'll always cut them off and I save the excess. In this case, it paid off because I actually have quite a few of these laying around. If you don't have any laying around and you throw them away, or you just don't cut them off, or whatever the case is, you can order some online, local hobby shop. Just get some servo extensions, cut it, and then you pair them up. Obviously, the way it's wired up is the way I described earlier. It's starting from the right side, it's signal. The red is obviously not red, it's not a power, it's telemetry, and then ground. Now, there may be a few of you guys out there that aren't, or don't always solder ground to your ESC wires. I'm a big fan of soldering ground. You can get away without soldering ground. It won't hurt if you do it. It won't hurt if you don't do it either. I'm just a big believer of having the ground wire in there. Obviously, there is a common ground that would be shared already through here. So, you know, by you having this ground connected, it'd be a common ground and you won't have any issues. But I don't know, I'm just a big guy. I'm a big fan of soldering the ground wire all the time. You can opt to do it or you can opt to not do it. But yeah, so what I'm going to be doing now, I already have the heat shrink cut to size. Kind of the way it works is I just make sure, you know, it overhangs by a bit. So I have the clear heat shrink. If you are doing clear heat shrink, you want to make sure your soldering job is on point. Reason for that is because everybody can see it. You know, if you mess up, you can always cover it with black heat shrink, and the only person that's going to know is yourself. But nonetheless, whether people see or don't see, you want your soldering jobs always to be as good as possible. So like I said, I highly recommend you guys watching my how to solder videos. I have quite a few of those, and they'll actually be very, very useful. So yeah, guys, I'm going to put double-sided tape on the bottom of this. Once I do that, I'll slip on the heat shrink, get everything slipped over the arm here, and then I'll show you kind of how it looks like before I apply heat to this shrink. So let me get that done and then I'll be right back. Alright everyone, so I'm sorry, I lied a little bit. I got a little bit too excited, got too ahead of myself, and I was supposed to show you before I put the heat shrink on it, but I already, or not the heat shrink, before I put the heat to the heat shrink to shrink it. I already applied the heat, and obviously you can see here it has already shrunk. But yeah, that's what happens when you get a little bit too excited and you're too into the build. But yeah guys, so I'm not gonna be doing all the ESCs in this video, because it'd be very boring. It's the same exact step just being done again. In this case it'd be 3 times because I had already done it once before. But yeah, you know, to this step, once you've completed this, you would obviously solder back your power wires to your distribution board, to your wire harness, whatever you know you may have. And then once you're done with that, you would also solder your servo wire, solder that back into your flight controller. You know, if you're using a NACE 32, you'd hook it back up properly. If you're using the KISS, you'd solder it back on. The only downside I'd have to say for pretty much all KISS products, whether it's a flight controller or the ESC, you gotta solder. You know, you gotta be very comfortable with soldering. You know, I'm sure you can get away with a mediocre job, but yeah, you gotta be very comfortable with soldering. Luckily, you know, I'd love for you guys that aren't too comfortable, for you guys to watch the video I made on soldering, and hopefully that'll get you going in the right direction and get you set up with the right equipment. But that's pretty much it for today's video, guys. I will have later a few more videos coming up with my final review on the flight controller as well on the ESCs. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them down in the comment box below. Also be sure to send us an email if you have any questions or comments. DronePros with the Z at the end @gmail.com. So always guys, thanks for watching. Till next time.